Margaret sat by the living room window, watching the sun dip behind the trees, casting a golden glow over her quiet suburban street. She held a cup of tea in her hands, but her attention was on her son, Ethan, who was sitting at the kitchen table, fully absorbed in his work. Even at 28, he had a calm confidence that drew people in without effort. Margaret often wondered if anyone truly saw the depth behind his quiet demeanor, the patience, the thoughtfulness, and the unwavering kindness that seemed to flow naturally from him. She had watched him grow from a small, curious boy into a man who seemed to understand people instinctively. Ethan had always carried himself with a sense of responsibility that made others feel secure. As a child, he would quietly help his classmates when they struggled with homework. And as a teenager, he often guided his friends through difficult situations, never seeking praise. Margaret remembered the countless evenings he spent helping neighbors with small tasks or comforting friends who faced heartbreak. It wasn't just about being helpful. It was about the way he genuinely cared, noticing details others might miss, the way someone looked when they were upset, the small sighs, the unspoken worries. That sensitivity, combined with his quiet strength, made Margaret proud in a way she could barely put into words. Watching him now, she felt a mix of pride and quiet longing. Pride because she knew that Ethan's heart and mind were rare, capable of building trust and love in ways few people could. Longing because she hoped he would one day meet someone who truly understood him, someone who would see beyond his calm exterior into the caring, thoughtful person beneath. Margaret often imagined the day he would fall in love, wondering who would be patient enough to notice the little things, who would appreciate the way he always put others first, without expecting anything in return. Ethan glanced up from his laptop, speaking quickly to a colleague over the phone, offering advice with calm precision. Margaret smiled, noting the ease in his voice, the gentle authority he carried naturally. He didn't need to raise his voice or demand attention. People simply listened because his words carried weight and kindness. She could see how easily he handled challenges, how he managed to remain patient even under pressure, and she realized that anyone who became close to him, professionally or personally, would feel the security of being understood and supported. As she watched, memories of Ethan's childhood flashed through her mind. She remembered when he was 10, how he had stayed up all night with a friend who was scared during a thunderstorm, offering quiet reassurances and holding his hand until morning. She recalled the countless times he had brought home stray animals, nursing them back to health with unwavering care. Every act, big or small, seemed to reflect a natural empathy and responsibility. Margaret often wondered if people realized how rare such qualities were, and whether Ethan himself recognized the power of his own kindness. That evening, the house was quiet, except for the hum of the refrigerator and the soft tapping of keys. Margaret felt a pang of realization. Ethan's maturity and capability were not just for work or friendship. They were qualities that would shape his relationships, that would make him a partner anyone could trust and rely on. She knew that someday, he would bring someone home who would benefit from this steady heart. Someone who would experience happiness not through grand gestures, but through the consistent, gentle care that Ethan naturally offered. Yet, there was a hint of worry beneath her pride. Life, she knew, could be complicated. People sometimes failed to recognize true worth, or took it for granted. Margaret hoped that when the time came, the person who walked into Ethan's life would see him for who he was, and not just for what he could do. She imagined scenarios where he might face heartbreak, misunderstandings, or disappointment, and it made her chest tighten. She wanted him to be happy, deeply and fully, without the shadows of disappointment or regret. Ethan finally ended his call and returned to the kitchen table, sipping water and jotting down notes. Margaret felt a gentle warmth in her heart, knowing that he was ready to face the world with skill, empathy, and integrity. She realized that his ability to connect with people, to listen, and to support them wasn't just a part of his personality. It was his gift. And one day, when the right person recognized that gift, she knew it would create a bond stronger than anything built on superficial attraction. As the sun set completely, casting a soft orange hue across the room, Margaret felt a mix of anticipation and hope. She couldn't rush the future, but she could trust in Ethan's character, in the way he had been raised, and in the life he was gradually building. Somewhere in the city, perhaps at this very moment, someone would soon cross his path and see the man he had become, a man capable not just of success, but of love, understanding, and commitment. Margaret whispered to herself, almost as a prayer, "May whoever finds him see the depth of his heart. May they be ready for the kind of love only he can give." And as the evening quieted into night, Margaret felt a serene confidence. She knew Ethan was ready not just to face the challenges of life, but to share his extraordinary capability and warmth with someone deserving. The journey of love was just beginning, and she silently trusted that her son, with all his quiet strength and caring nature, would create a life of happiness for the person who truly recognized him. Ethan's life had grown busier with his new position at the marketing firm. It was demanding, but he thrived in the challenge. He enjoyed problem-solving, organizing campaigns, and helping his team meet deadlines efficiently. Yet, amidst the schedules and meetings, there was an unexpected spark in his routine. Claire. She had joined the firm as a project coordinator just a few weeks earlier, and from the moment they met, Ethan felt a quiet connection. There was something in her easy smile and calm demeanor that put him at ease, a subtle warmth that made the office feel lighter whenever she was around. Their first conversation had been short, purely professional. Claire needed help understanding a new client brief, and Ethan guided her through it. Clear, patient, and precise. But there was an unspoken comfort between them, a rhythm in their dialogue that felt effortless. Margaret, who had begun noticing these subtle shifts in her son, felt a mixture of curiosity and quiet hope. She saw Ethan returning home with a brightness in his voice she hadn't noticed in a long time, laughing at small things and lingering on phone calls with a soft smile. It was a change, gentle but undeniable. One Friday evening, Claire called him after work, asking for guidance on a tricky presentation. Without hesitation, Ethan agreed to help. He spent hours over video calls, walking her through the problem, offering suggestions, and sharing ideas. He listened carefully to her questions, encouraging her when she doubted herself, never showing impatience or frustration. Margaret watched him from the kitchen window while she tidied up, feeling proud. She realized that what made Ethan remarkable wasn't just his professional skill, it was the care and thought he put into helping others. Any partner in his life would benefit from his natural attentiveness and quiet support. As weeks went by, Ethan found himself looking forward to these interactions with Claire. They began sharing small stories about their lives, laughing over minor office mishaps and learning details about each other that went beyond work. He discovered that Claire loved simple moments. A quiet morning walk, reading under a tree, listening to soft music while working. Ethan noticed how she cared deeply about people, how she wanted to do things right, that sometimes struggled under pressure. Their conversations, initially focused on deadlines, slowly grew into exchanges of empathy and understanding. Margaret saw her son's eyes light up in ways they hadn't before, an ease and warmth that made her feel certain he was experiencing the first sparks of something meaningful. One weekend, Ethan invited Claire to join him for a casual brainstorming session at a small cafe downtown. It was intended to be about work, but over coffee and soft music, their conversation drifted naturally. They talked about childhood memories, favorite books, and little dreams for the future. Ethan admired how Claire spoke with honesty and thoughtfulness. She asked questions that went deeper than surface-level chatter, and she listened intently, making him feel valued. He realized that beyond attraction, there was a connection built on respect and understanding. Margaret, quietly observing his growing excitement through his messages and calls, felt a wave of relief. Finally, someone was meeting Ethan on his level, someone who could appreciate not just his actions but his heart. Yet, Margaret also knew that emotions could be fragile. She had seen young love fizzle out when people failed to notice each other's worth. What if Claire didn't see Ethan's depth? What if misunderstandings arose before she realized how genuine he was? The thought made her pause, but she quickly reminded herself that Ethan had always been thoughtful and patient. She trusted him to navigate these early moments carefully, to show kindness without expecting it in return, to build trust with honesty. One Thursday evening, Ethan stayed late at the office, working on a joint presentation with Claire. They laughed over a formatting error, debated gently about the best approach, and discovered a shared sense of humor that made the long hours feel shorter. Ethan noticed how attentive Claire was, how she considered his ideas thoughtfully, and how she offered her suggestions without dismissing his. It struck him that compatibility wasn't about grand gestures, but about small moments of connection and understanding. He realized that Claire was not just a colleague. She was someone whose presence added calm and warmth to his day. And he felt a quiet thrill at the thought of spending more time with her outside work. By the time he returned home that night, Ethan was thoughtful, replaying their conversations and laughter in his mind. Margaret noticed a gentle glow on his face as he recounted the evening in snippets. He spoke softly about Claire's ideas, her sense of humor, and how easy it felt to work alongside her. Margaret felt a sense of hope, imagining a future where her son shared his life with someone who would value his heart as much as his mind. She knew that the journey ahead would have small challenges, but if anyone could navigate it with care and patience, it was Ethan. The following weekend, Margaret watched Ethan walk through the front door with a bouquet of wildflowers he had picked on his way home. Claire had mentioned that she liked the simplicity of flowers from nature, and he had remembered. Margaret's heart swelled as she realized that this small act, so thoughtful and gentle, reflected the essence of Ethan's character. He was not someone who acted for show. He acted from consideration, understanding, and care. Anyone who became close to him would find a partner who valued emotional depth, kindness, and reliability above all else. As night fell, Margaret reflected quietly in her living room. Ethan's life was changing in subtle but meaningful ways, and she felt a deep sense of reassurance. He was capable, attentive, and ready to give his heart thoughtfully. And if Claire continued to recognize and appreciate these qualities, Margaret believed that happiness, steady and lasting, would bloom naturally. The first sparks were just beginning, and the path ahead, though unknown, looked promising. As spring turned into summer, Ethan and Claire's bond grew stronger with each passing day. Their connection, which had begun at the office, slowly spilled into their personal lives. They began sharing lunch breaks together, exchanging small notes of encouragement, and laughing over inside jokes that only the two of them understood. It was subtle, but every interaction seemed to deepen their understanding of each other. Ethan noticed the way Claire's eyes lit up when she talked about her dreams, the gentle determination in her voice whenever she faced a challenge. He admired her resilience and the quiet kindness she showed to those around her. Margaret, watching her son from a distance, felt a swelling pride her careful, capable son was forming a bond with someone who truly matched his heart. One Saturday morning, Ethan invited Claire to a local art exhibit. They wandered through the galleries, commenting on paintings, sharing memories the artworks inspired, and laughing at their differing tastes. Ethan was struck by how effortlessly their personalities meshed. He found himself opening up in ways he rarely did, sharing childhood stories, dreams for the future, and small fears he hadn't spoken of aloud in years. Claire listened intently, her gaze calm and encouraging, offering insights that showed she understood not only his words, but the emotions behind them. For Ethan, it was a revelation. She didn't just like him. She truly saw him. Margaret noticed the subtle changes in Ethan's demeanor when he returned home after being with Claire. He seemed lighter, more at ease, and happier in ways that weren't tied to work or routine. There was a soft confidence in the way he moved, a quiet warmth in the way he spoke. Margaret realized that true happiness often came in small, almost imperceptible shifts, and watching her son smile freely filled her with an emotion she hadn't anticipated: relief. Relief that he was forming a connection built not on superficial attraction, but on shared understanding and mutual respect. As the weeks went on, Ethan and Claire spent more time together outside the office. They went for walks in the park, cooked simple meals together, and shared quiet evenings discussing books, music, and memories. Each moment was an opportunity for them to learn more about each other, to build trust and comfort, to experience intimacy that wasn't hurried or forced. Ethan found himself thinking of Claire in ways he hadn't imagined he would. He realized that she made him want to be the best version of himself, not for show, but because being around her brought out the best naturally. Yet, life wasn't without its small challenges. There were moments of disagreement, minor miscommunications, and the occasional hesitation when vulnerability made them both cautious. Ethan realized that love wasn't about perfection. It was about navigating the small storms together, understanding each other's perspectives and offering patience when one faltered. Claire, for her part, respected his integrity and his careful approach to connection, finding comfort in his consistency and his willingness to listen. Margaret, observing quietly, understood that these early trials were the tests that would make a bond stronger, not weaker. One evening, Ethan and Claire volunteered at a local charity event, helping organize a fundraiser. Ethan noticed Claire's natural leadership and her empathy toward the participants. She moved gracefully through the crowd, offering support where needed and quietly stepping back when someone else needed the spotlight. Ethan felt a deep admiration for her, not just for what she did, but for the way she did it with sincerity and heart. He realized that their compatibility wasn't only emotional. It extended to their values and priorities. Margaret, seeing the joy in her son's expression as he worked alongside Claire, felt certain that anyone who became part of Ethan's life would be cared for with thoughtfulness and consistency. As the sun set that evening, Ethan walked Claire home. They lingered at her doorstep, talking quietly, sharing stories and laughter, until the moment felt too perfect to end abruptly. He turned to her, his voice low but steady. "I hope I can always make you happy." Claire's smile was soft but firm, a reflection of mutual respect and budding affection. Margaret, watching from a distance, felt tears prick at her eyes. She realized that her son's capability wasn't just about work or responsibility. It was about the way he could nurture someone emotionally, the way he could offer stability and love without demanding it in return. From that night forward, Ethan and Claire's relationship grew with subtle, intentional care. They shared more experiences: quiet dinners, movie nights, and weekend hikes, each one strengthening their trust and intimacy. Ethan found joy in the small things, making Claire's favorite tea, noticing the details she appreciated, and offering encouragement whenever she needed it. Claire responded with warmth, laughter, and the kind of gentle affection that reassured him. She understood the depth of his heart. Margaret often watched from her living room window, smiling quietly, realizing that happiness and love often came not from dramatic gestures, but from steady, consistent care. By the time summer reached its peak, Ethan and Claire had formed a rhythm together. Their friendship had blossomed into a tender, promising romance, built on trust, understanding, and admiration. Margaret felt a quiet pride, knowing that her son's careful, thoughtful approach to relationships had created a connection that could endure life's ups and downs. She knew that their bond was not about fleeting emotions, but about mutual respect, emotional support, and shared joy. And as she sat quietly that evening, listening to the faint laughter of her son and Claire through the slightly open window, Margaret whispered to herself, "This is what I hoped for him. Someone who sees him, who values him, who will walk beside him through life." The chapter of courtship was still unfolding, with challenges and joys ahead. But Margaret felt confident that Ethan's capability, patience, and kindness had found a partner who would recognize and cherish him. Summer was drawing to a close, and with it came a sense of calm and certainty in Ethan and Claire's relationship. Over the months, they had grown together in ways that were quiet but profound. Their connection was no longer just about shared work or casual outings. It had matured into a bond rooted in understanding, trust, and genuine affection. Ethan had learned how much joy could come from being attentive to someone's needs, while Claire had discovered the peace of being with someone who valued her feelings and thoughts equally. Margaret, observing her son's transformation, felt a deep satisfaction. She had watched him grow into a man whose love would be steady, thoughtful, and true. One weekend, Ethan suggested they spend the day at a local botanical garden. As they walked through rows of colorful flowers, sunlight filtering through the trees, they shared their thoughts on life, love, and their dreams for the future. Claire spoke about the quiet life she hoped to build someday, a life filled with simplicity, creativity, and shared laughter. Ethan listened intently, offering encouragement and quietly revealing his own hopes. In that moment, it was clear that their relationship was about more than romance. It was about building a partnership that respected each other's individuality while fostering shared joy. Margaret, watching from a nearby cafe where she had accompanied them under the guise of enjoying the morning herself, felt a surge of pride. She remembered worrying that her son might rush into something fleeting, that now she could see the care he brought to every interaction with Claire. He wasn't just capable in his career or daily responsibilities. He was capable of love, of nurturing a bond that could withstand life's inevitable challenges. Every small gesture, every patient word, and every thoughtful consideration reflected his heart and character. As the weeks passed, Ethan and Claire continued to strengthen their connection through shared experiences. They volunteered together at local events, cooked meals side by side, and explored nearby towns on spontaneous weekend trips. Each activity revealed new facets of their personalities and deepened their mutual respect. Ethan admired Claire's curiosity, creativity, and unwavering kindness, while Claire cherished his thoughtfulness, reliability, and ability to make her feel safe and valued. Margaret often observed them from a distance, noticing how naturally they complemented one another, how their laughter filled the spaces they shared, and how their ease with each other spoke of genuine compatibility. One evening, as they sat together on a quiet bench overlooking a small lake, Ethan turned to Claire and spoke softly. "I feel like I can be myself with you," he said, his voice steady but filled with emotion. Claire smiled, her eyes reflecting the same depth of feeling. "I feel the same," she replied. "With you, it's simple. It's easy. I feel seen." Margaret, who had accompanied them briefly to watch them settle into the evening, felt a tear slip down her cheek. She realized that this was the kind of love she had always hoped Ethan would find, not dramatic or fleeting, but steady, understanding, and full of respect. As the relationship progressed, they began discussing more meaningful aspects of life, values, family, and long-term goals. Ethan's calm reliability paired with Claire's warmth created a balance that allowed both of them to express themselves honestly. They navigated small disagreements with patience, learning to communicate openly without fear of judgment. Each challenge became an opportunity to reinforce trust, and each shared success became a reason to celebrate together. Margaret saw that the foundation they were building was strong, not dependent on luck or timing, but on consistent care, mutual respect, and understanding. One weekend, they decided to start a small garden in Margaret's backyard. Ethan guided Claire gently as she planted flowers, showing her where sunlight would best reach them and how to water them carefully. He was patient, encouraging, and thoughtful in every movement, and Claire's laughter and smiles made the effort feel light and joyful. Margaret watched from the kitchen window, feeling a deep sense of fulfillment. She realized that her son's capability extended beyond work or superficial gestures. It was in the way he cared, taught, and supported those around him. She knew that whoever shared life with him would experience a love that was steady, thoughtful, and nurturing. As the garden took shape, so did their understanding of one another. Ethan noticed Claire's attentiveness, her patience, and the subtle ways she showed affection, while Claire appreciated Ethan's consistency, his empathy, and the quiet strength he brought to their partnership. Their lives, once separate and independent, were now intertwined in a natural, comfortable rhythm. Margaret felt a serene pride, knowing that her son had found a partner who would cherish him as much as he cherished her. The final evening of the weekend arrived, and Ethan and Claire sat on the porch with Margaret, sipping tea and enjoying the soft glow of the sunset. They spoke of dreams for the coming year, of hopes and plans, and laughed at small memories from the past months. Margaret felt a deep peace settle in her heart. Her son, capable, thoughtful, and kind, had found someone whose presence complemented his own. She knew that life would bring challenges, but with the bond they had formed, they were equipped to face them together. As the sky darkened and the first stars appeared, Margaret whispered quietly to herself, "My son is very capable. Whoever walks beside him will be happy." She knew that the path ahead for Ethan and Claire would be filled with shared joy, quiet triumphs, and the kind of love that grows steadily over time. It wasn't flashy or loud, but it was real, dependable, and full of warmth. The kind of love that builds a life worth cherishing. In that moment, Margaret felt a profound certainty. Ethan's capability, his patience, and his kind heart would make anyone who shared life with him feel safe, valued, and deeply loved. Claire's presence in his life confirmed everything she had always hoped for, and Margaret knew that together they had begun a chapter full of promise, joy, and enduring love.